Kato, there's some local fast. Mama, me again. Let's go, Yale. Me quite remember who hear me. Me and sent my friend doctor when I'm crossing over. See what we swear. She has malaria. Malaria. Oh, what they say with the router? Me copy the ambulance here. A drone a friend router mix. You come malaria draw and running router. Some
Gap trap and the draw ku abaso body ase. Wabo router mixture abaso. Router natural products no ne router mixture. Ya e kutie a treat. Router tonic and the router life for. E wuhuru e finish la the body e fini peduem. Nasa support the immune system no. Router de obi ase ye. FDA age dwedwe kra to yato.
We've been a nation for 60 years. 275 seats, only 35 women. And if you look at the pattern, it's just the same. It's not going to change. It will not change if we are not radical. And that is why we are thinking about an affirmative action law. The only way we can get past is to adopt an affirmative action law and for us to change our attitude.
We are saying pass the affirmative action bill law. When it is done, if you look at other countries, Rwanda, Kenya, South Africa, all those countries that pass legislation, certain measures are put in place to ensure that the numbers that you want appear in parliament. In our own neighboring country, Sierra Leone, they passed their law in 2022, October. They said minimum 30%. By their next elections, they had a 30% in parliament. Do you understand? So when you pass the law, the measures are put in place, and then you ensure that you follow through, and then the numbers will increase. The very first affirmative action law we had was called the Representation of the People's Act by the very first president, Excellency Kwame Nkrumah. He ensured that he passed the law to make sure that we had one woman from each region then in parliament. So that was about 9.something%. In the next election, which was 65, people could see that these women could work. The next election, we had the highest number of women in parliament, which was 18.5%.
As a gender activist, it is not something that you can leave. Until the day I die, I will continue to work in that area. I'm a feminist, actually, to ensure that the affirmative action comes to life in this time that I am alive. Because I want to enjoy it, not only my children to enjoy it.
It's time for us to be serious. The affirmative action is not only a women's issue, it's for the whole society. And if the women are there to decide with the men, then we can move and have sustainable development in Ghana. And let's stop toying with it. The ministry is leading the process. Please stop sleeping. Wake up.
Currently, one of the international instruments that Ghana is looking at is the Sustainable Development Goals, which says that by the year 2030, there should be parity when it comes to representation of women in leadership. We're in the year 2022. 2030 is coming close, and we think that if the law is not passed now, then we are not likely to meet the targets of 2030, parity in 2030.
As at today, the 16th of June, 2022, please, with all due respect, what's happening to the affirmative action bill? What's happening to the affirmative action bill? And you see, that's the reason why we are here for Basuma Summit. This is why. To have the conversations about ourselves as women, to get the big men and the big women in the room and ask them, sis, please, what are you doing for us as women? For the majority of the people that you represent, what are you doing for us? Can we all agree that we will not go into the next election without the affirmative action bill? Can we? Can we? Honorable, can we?
Moved and seconded for the third reading of the bill, which is now titled Affirmative Action, Gender Equity Act 2024. I put the question. Honorable members.
Bringing you warm greetings from our studios 48 Swanika Street, Abilin Accra. This is Good Morning Africa on Pan-African Television. Be reminded that we're also watched across 46 African countries, some parts of South America and Europe via satellite. Good morning again and welcome to the show that brings you insightful analysis and in-depth conversations that matter to you. My name is OHEMAA AGYEKUM and it's always a pleasure to bring you the very best here on the show. This morning there are several topics tabled for discussion and my guests have joined me, but you know that you can be a part of the conversation by sharing or sending your thoughts, your concerns and submissions on the number that will be displayed on the screen. Please be reminded, the number is not for calls. Reminding you again that the number is not for calls, strictly for text messages and WhatsApp messages. From wherever you're watching us, we just want to extend our heartfelt felicitation and also gratitude that you always choose us. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey, always and forever. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Right, before I introduce my guests, let me share with you the topics that we will be discussing or what our conversations will border on. And it's we will begin with our African story as usual, which happens to be happenings in Mozambique, and is that the police has fired tear gas at the biggest protest. Also, Bagbim is setting Ghana on fire, and this is coming from the majority leader. We'll also be looking at uproar in Ghana as president unveils his own statute. I beg your pardon, not statute, but statue. And finally, we'll also be looking at perceived constitutional crisis raises concern for amendments, as some Ghanaians are, talking about. And these are the conversations we'll be having here on the show. Without further ado, I will just introduce our guests and we'll delve right into our topics. Good morning, gentlemen. This morning I have here with me, very first time meeting him, but I've learned that he's been on some of our panel discussions a few times, and he's in the person of Eric Delano Alifo, president of Lawyers in Search of Democracy, in short, LINSOT, and he's here to have conversations with us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay.
How's your Friday?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, we're managing. Yeah.
That started well?
I wouldn't say well. Yeah. It's
You're also mourning the country
normal.
like me. Today, I'm in all black.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm mourning the country.
Yeah, it's not going well. Everybody is complaining, and so yes, So, but we are just they say all Ghanaians are managers. That's what we do every day.
Yeah.
We wake up and then we pull through the day, and then
it is well.
That's it. Yeah.
It is well. Right. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And we have our very own our uncle, Ebo Bachman. He's here. He's a communicator for the Movement for Change, and he has joined us. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
How's it going?
We are managing, except that we are all mourning our dear nation for what is happening in the country at the moment. It looks as if every day you wake up to something very unpalatable. Be it governance issue, be it economic issues, whatever. I mean, it's been quite disturbing. So we are managing, hoping that things will change from next year. So we're there inside.
Talking about we're there inside, speaking of which, yesterday I encountered a very, I'm not sure if I should call it strange, because it's the first time I've come across such. And I was in a Bolt, one of these ride-hailing apps, ride-hailing rides. And the driver, someone crossed the driver. And here in Ghana it's normal to throw jabs at each other when you're driving. Someone said that driving in Ghana can land you in hell. which I believe, because you insult people day in, day out. And the one who crossed us decided to insult him back, and he also insulted him back. Then my driver sped off. Now I realized that he was going very fast, and I asked him, what's going on? And he says, they are chasing him. I said, who is chasing you? Now I become scared. Then the car I saw, it had a lot of people parked in there. So it was chasing and was tailing us, and he came to cross. He sped and he came to cross. When he came to cross, he got and was a military man. And he just dragged my driver out. And he started slapping him. Yes! Just yesterday. At about 5 p.m. or so, around that time. Just yesterday.
Wow.
And I'm like, what's going on here? You insulted him, insulted you back. In fact, you violated the traffic regulation.
Was it the same car?
Yeah, the same car that
had the problem.
Yes, it's the same car.
And the man was a military.
He was a military man. And he had carried prisoners in his car with a prison officer. And was informing my driver that, does he know who he is? He doesn't talk to anybody anyhow. What's going on in this country?
Banana Republic.
Yeah.
It's like unfettered, powers, sort of. Authority. Anyway, this is just by the way, one of the very strange things that, we are experiencing here in Ghana. But let me run you through the topics one more time so that you can share your 2 cents. The first is that Mozambique police fired tear gas at biggest protest. And also, Bagbin is getting Ghana on fire. It's setting Ghana on fire. This is coming from the majority leader. Uproar in Ghana as president unveils his own statue. Perceived constitutional crisis raises concerns for amendment. And this is some concerns coming from certain Ghanaians. Now, we'll start with our Mozambique story. And as usual, I'm going to give a background of the story, which has been featured on page 5 in today's edition of the Daily Graphic. It says that Mozambican police fired tear gas at thousands of protesters in the capital, Maputo, on Thursday during the biggest demonstration yet against the long-ruling Frelimo party, which was declared the winner of a disputed election last month. Anger has mounted since election authorities said Frelimo had won the October 9 vote, extending its 49-year rule. Now, human rights groups say at least 18 people have been killed in the police crackdown on protests since then. The election was hotly contested, with many young people supporting independent candidate Venancio Mondlane, who says the vote was rigged and encouraged demonstrations. Protesters chanted "Power to the people" and "Frelimo must fall," and some blockade streets with burning tires and held homemade signs supporting Mondlane. Now, this is it. If we don't stand up now, nothing will change, said Julia Macamo, 55, a street vendor and mother of 6 who was still shaken by the tear gas she inhaled while protesting in the Maxaquin neighborhood. And this is what is happening in Mozambique currently, following the declaration of the results that the Frelimo party had yet again won, which has extended their 49-year rule. Imagine a state that is perceived to be democratic and having one party rule for 49 years straight. Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, very amazing. Yeah, very.
What's your thoughts about this very incident?
Well, good morning to viewers and those who are watching from far and near. I'm glad to be here. And look, this is it's a very sad story that some people have died in this melee, but I also think that it is appropriate for the people to resist if they feel that the election was actually stolen. I'm not seized with the facts, the details to know exactly how the election was conducted, but I can share their sentiments, because for a party that has been in power for about 49 years, clearly, and this is Africa, once they contested the elections again, it means they will find every means to remain in power. And so they will make sure they influence all the institutions. In fact, I don't know how their constitution is like, but the institutions, the heads of the institutions are appointed by the government, mostly. In fact, most of these constitutions, that's what happens. So clearly, that's how come the people are able to remain in power for that long. That is it. If they do not influence, they do not have any impact on the institutions that conduct these elections and run the affairs of the nations. If you talk about the judiciary, the electoral commissions, and even the military, the police, and all of those, they are loyal to the regime, to the administration. And so if they remain in power for a very long time, it is not because they are doing anything good, or it is not because nobody else can do what they are doing or do better than them. It is because they have made sure that they have put people in place who are always making them the king. So clearly, in order to come out of that, people will have to resist. They have to struggle. They have to go on the street. And unfortunately, some may lose their lives, but they are losing their lives for the nation to make it better in the future. And so, but you see, what the police did, that is just from the playbook, the common playbook. That's what happens everywhere. When the demonstrations start, first they try to harass them, intimidate them, suppress them, oppress them, and try to use tear gas, beat them up, and all of that. And then it escalates. Because you see, the youth now, they are watching what is happening elsewhere, everywhere, and they know that without resistance, because their future is at stake. And these people have occupied their power for a very long time, and then they see them get rich and richer and richer, and then the people are impoverished. So they know that it is only through resistance, in fact, enduring one, lasting resistance, that they can actually also attain something for themselves. And so when they go on the street first and they see that, well, they are brutalized, it energizes those who have not even come on the street. That is what happens. You see, I just hope that African leaders are learning, or they have learned from what has happened in other places like Kenya and all of that. You see, so normally that is the case. The demonstration will start. A few people will get on the street first, and then they are brutalized, and they think that by doing that to scare others not to come. But before you realize, others are now coming more and more, and they get angry and angrier when they are brutalized, and so people are coming more and more, and then it becomes something else. And so if they do not watch it, that is what this is leading to. And then the countries that are going into elections, they have to also watch this closely. It is the same thing. We have our democracy hub. People, when they went to demonstration recently, we saw what happened to them. They arrested them, and then the courts remanded them for weeks, which shouldn't have happened at all. Yes, denied them bail and remanded them. Yes, it shouldn't have happened at all, because, and then you hear the regime lawyers and all of that arguing. I'm a lawyer. I know that. Look, I have said over and over again that demonstration is an important tool in a democracy to fight for the cause of justice, or to fight. In fact, even if what the people are fighting for is not just or is not reasonable, look, you have to engage them and find a way to let them understand, because that tool is important, the demonstration, the processions, and so they will go on the street, and when they go on the street, some may be wayward, some may misbehave, some may misconduct themselves, but it doesn't mean they are common criminals. You see, that is why in developed jurisdictions, developed democracies, when they arrest demonstrators, they just arraign them in court. Arrest is okay. If the people if they are spoiling things, destroying property and all that, they will arrest them. There's nothing wrong with that. But when they arrest such people, they arraign them in court very quickly, caution them and discharge them. That's what happens. Because these are not common, they are fighting for something. And in our case, they were even fighting against Galamsey, which is a just cause. And so if they are doing that, and then they bend ties here and then, they bend party flags and all of that, why would that result in them being denied bail and then remanded for weeks? It doesn't make sense. But they are doing that, the regime is doing that to scare others, to let others see that, look, we have a strong fist, we shall shall bully you when you do this. We don't welcome demonstrations and all of that. And it's very unfortunate we have a president who, in fact, was touted as a human rights lawyer, and he himself engaged in several demonstrations to be presided over a nation. In fact, his first term, it was even very difficult to even having a demonstration in this country at all, because every time the police will run to court and go and get ex parte order to stop the demonstrators or the organizers. Yeah, so that's what happened. So when demonstrators go a little wayward, unless they cause any serious damage, which even they will have to, if they have to be fined, they fine them to pay for whatever damage. But other than that, if it's minor distractions here and there and all of that, they just caution them, let them go. You keep them for weeks just to show where power lies. And that is what happens. That is it's just a signal, even by our own government, to the youth to say that, look, if you demonstrate this, how we are going to treat you. But it's not going to help, because it's not going to stop the people. If they feel cheated, they will still come on the street, because first of all, they will hope that you will not treat them that way. And then when you treat them that way, they will come again, and then others will come, others will come, others will come, and it will destabilize this country. So I hope that the countries, especially African countries that are going into election this year and in the very near future, they'll be learning from this, and we'll see how this one is handled. The Kenyan situation was handled well eventually when the president began to listen to them and made some changes and engage them. It didn't start well. He also started with the normal way that they always try to brutalize them and thinking that they can silence them. But it didn't work, and quickly, I think he was wise. He saw that, no, I wouldn't let this fester for 2-3 weeks. So let me just engage these people and see how best I can meet some of their demands. That is what they should have done right from day one. As you see them, you just have to find ways to engage these people. Sit down, listen to them, because they are the future, the youth. You see, they are the future of the nations. And so when they rise up and they are agitating, listen to them and see how best you can help them, you can accommodate them. You explain to, in fact, when you engage them, they will not be violent. When you begin to engage them, because they will feel that they are being listened to. See, but when you think that, oh yeah, let me try the first 3 days and see if we fire tear gas, we beat them up, maybe they'll stop. You see, and it's never happening. We haven't seen that anywhere yet. And so, and I hear people always say, Ghanaians are peace-loving, Ghanaians are people. Who say so? You see, we are watching what is happening elsewhere, and it can happen here easily when the people feel cheated. And now that we have watched more and more of our neighboring countries even embark on such activities, I'm sure Ghana is ready to do that also if our government is going to treat us that way. And so we have to watch the scene very well, and that is why the Electoral Commission has to be very careful also, because they are also misconducting themselves. Everything they are doing is showing that they are biased. They are trying to manipulate the elections for the ruling party, and they have to watch it, because Ghanaians are not going to sit down. These elections, look, Ghanaians will not fold their arms if they feel that the election was rigged for the NPP, because they have seen the situation in the country, and everybody is complaining everywhere, every time. Our mothers, our sisters, those who are going to the markets are complaining every time. Those who are buying fuel are complaining every time. The youth are not getting jobs. The only thing these people are holding on to is free SHS, and the free SHS graduates. The free SHS itself was not properly managed, and the graduates are not getting jobs, and when they have the chance to go to further their education, they are not getting money to go. So everybody knows that this government has become very unpopular, and so they are not going to win the elections. And so when the Electoral Commission is doing everything, or when they come back to tell us that this party has won the election, I believe that it's going to result in something else. So they better be transparent and fair.
Right. Thank you very much, Council. Let's go back one. What's your thoughts on this subject matter?
Before I say anything, let me greet our viewers and also greet the Commander-in-Chief of the Yellow Army, Mr. Alan Chinamanton, and also the incoming, the youngest Vice President you're going to have in this country, KOD, Lawyer KOD. My greetings to you guys. You guys are doing wonderfully well. I mean, the campaign is going on very well. If you consider what Mr. Alan Chinamanton is doing up north right now, the kind of enthusiasm and euphoria that have greeted this campaign up north, you really see that Ghanaians are really poised for change a very positive one for that matter, a change that would affect the lives of the people in a positive way. So KOD, Charlie, we'll move again, and as you always say, you are not leaving any stone unturned. We are turning all stones to make sure that the youth in this country, their future is fully secured. I don't know much about Mozambique in terms of how their system operates. I don't know how their constitution works, and but what I would say is that most often than not, when people want to perpetuate themselves in power, what they do is they tamper with constitution, or they manipulate the constitution in a way that will enable them to stay on for a long time, like the Togo example. I don't want to believe that in the case of Mozambique, they also have a similar situation. 49 years, one particular political party to be in government for 49 years is something that it's not something that you usually hear, because ordinarily, if you are practicing a true democracy, then one would have expected that at one point in time there could be changes in terms of ideas, in terms of leadership style and all that. So people would want to try alternative system and alternative political party. But for one party to be in power for 49 years, there should be something wrong somewhere. I mean, this is Africa. Somebody will say, it be Africa we day. And it is quite relatable if you think of what is currently happening in this country. The fact that our constitution, for example, even though the constitution itself has not been manipulated in terms of constitutional reforms to favor a particular person, from the very beginning our constitution has a problem. Because as you all agree, the constitution itself was put together to favor one particular person, and so after the person left, we are still using the same constitution. People are enjoying what the constitution provides, so nobody seems to be serious about changing or reforming the constitution. In our case, for example, is the president who appoints the electoral commission, and not only the boss but all the commissioners. And unfortunately for us, this time around, we've had a situation where known party members, active party members, have been appointed to occupy sensitive position in the commission, and that has already raised a lot of red flags. And so that one alone is a problem we are dealing with. And the fact that about the registration, the voters register issue, even yesterday, when they had a meeting, from the information I had, I mean, people were not really happy about what happened yesterday when they gave the voters register to the political party. I think the only party that was excited was MPP. Almost all the other parties, and MPP and the parties the MPP are sponsoring. But apart from that, others who really mean business to cause a change in this country were not happy because of. Parties are MPP sponsoring. Oh, I mean, they are sponsoring some parties.
I'm very lost in this conversation because I didn't even know that the MPP will sponsor parties that are coming up against them.
Balloons party is one.
Then there are facts to this. They are like.
I mean, they are sponsoring. That's what the main.
Oh, these are like passive.
So they normally do that because they want heavy voice in maybe at IPAC meetings. So they would want other voices to be added to theirs. whenever decisions are going to be made at IPAC meetings.
At the risk of their victory during election?
No. But even those people, those candidates end up voting for them. But that is beside the point. But the point I'm making is that in our case, the Constitution has not been helpful. Considering the fact that the Constitution itself allows the president to make all the sensitive appointments in this country. Now, in this country, if you can manipulate the judiciary, you can manipulate the Electoral Commission, and you can manipulate the security services. What is happening in Mozambique can easily happen in Ghana. And that is what we need to prevent. That is why this election, we don't have to take it like a kindergarten kind of play. It is something that Ghanaians must take it seriously, because whatever that is going to happen to this, whether you are going to move forward as a nation, you're going to stand still or even go backward, it depends on what happens in this year's elections. And so it becomes a very important election for all of us. And we need to try as much as possible to avoid a situation where one particular political party, by virtue of the fact that they control our public institutions, would want to perpetuate themselves in power for quite a long time, even when ostensibly they are not performing. And that is what we need to avoid. Normally what they say is that we will do it, you will demonstrate, but it won't get anywhere. That's what they normally say. And so they don't care so long as they get power. They said the end justifies the means. But I believe that this time around, Ghanaians are going to do something that has never happened in this country before. The problems of this country, I believe, part of the problems are the two political parties. I mean, let's face it, if 32 years, we are still having some of these issues in this country. If 32 years, we have not been able to reform our constitution. If 32 years, we are now thinking of where should a minority sit and where should majority sit, to the extent that is creating confusion in this country, to the extent that government business is not moving on, then you should know that these two political parties have been our problem in the last 32 years. And that is why I would want Ghanaians to begin to think outside the box and begin to look at things differently from the way things have been looked in the past. So yes, Mozambicans, we wish the opposition well. I believe that they can do proper investigation. As for demonstration, it should be allowed to go on. If indeed there are facts and figures to show that elections were rigged, then they shouldn't stop the demonstration. They should continue till something is done about the election. Because election, you see, the essence of election is to have the total will of the people, or the majority will of the people given to one particular person to rule or govern over them. But where, in actual fact, you had a minority vote in terms of you couldn't make the required number, but you've used other means to get the results, to become the leader, then you don't have the legitimacy as a leader to rule over the people. And that is why we should not allow people to be rigging election to become leaders in this country.
Thank you very much, Mr. AGYEKUM. Our viewers also have some addition when it comes to this subject, but I think the comments vary. Let me just take a few and then we continue with our discussion. This one says, "Good day, OHEMAA. How can Akufo-Addo lay claim to an old hospital built in Sekondi by the colonial regime in the 1930s before he was born? It's sad to have a president who blames everyone except himself for his failures, but is in a hurry to claim credit for everything good, such as Ghana cards, schools, electricity, roads, and digitalization." Ken William. Okay. Thank you, Ken. This one also says that Honorable Ken Ejapon should have been the majority leader of parliament to exhibit maturity in resolving conflicts and not the gross immaturity of Honorable Affirmative Kings. The immaturity that Honorable Affirmative Kings continue to exhibit. Please let us not dispute the fact that the Supreme Court judges can fault grossly in their attempt to interpret the Constitution, as seen in Job 4:18, that even saints in heaven do make mistakes. If the judges ruled that the people cannot be denied their representation, then why is the same Constitution saying that when such incidents happens 3 months to general election, no election should be held for members of that constituency? Are the judges aware of every aspect of the Constitution and the supremacy of the Constitution? Well, if the Speaker, who is a senior in legal parlance, then the 5 judges who sat on the case at the Supreme Court ruling is wrong. What shows the Supreme Court ruling absolutely Solomic? Interesting, Solomic. We the laymen are watching. Please, CPP and Alan Party should merge and become a strong third force in a situation like this. Come to the peripheral of mobilization. We are ready. Sitting arrangement in Parliament. Is it a business of Supreme Court? Thanks. Simon from Bato. Thank you, Simon. I read the last one and we move on. Who say man no day? If you think you know the law, somebody else know the law more than you. Honorable Bagman, bravo, keep it up. Abi National. Wow. Okay, thank you very much. And to all our viewers across the country, up north, in the middle belt and down south here, we really appreciate you. Now, let's move on to our second topic for discussion. And of course, it has to do with happenings here in Ghana within our legislative environment, and also the feud. That is what we consider it as media people, and also as the general public have put it, the feud between the legislature and the judiciary. Now, following that, the Speaker yesterday adjourned Parliament or parliamentary sitting indefinitely. Now, we are not preview to when Parliament will reconvene, and the majority leader says that Bagman is setting Ghana on fire. Council, what do you make of this?
Yes. All right. Well, you know, what is happening, though it seems disgraceful, but I'm not too bothered about it. I think that this is a parliamentary democracy, and we have to. If they are flexing their muscles, they have to do it, and we have to watch it. We have elected them to do such things. Sometimes it's disgraceful only because it is members of parliament or some leaders of parliament who are always running to court for the courts to make pronouncements about what is going on in Parliament. It's so sad because, you see, Parliament is supposed to be a co-equal arm of government, standing on its own, just like the judiciary and then the executive. The judiciary only interprets the law when Parliament makes the law, and it includes policies. They approve policies, they become laws. And then the executive implements or executes those. So if in the course of the executing their mandate, the laws, anybody is aggrieved, then the person goes to court for redress. The court adjudicates. See, so when Parliament makes a law, yes, people can go and challenge that law, the law itself, because the law has been made. It's conclusive. Because, like, for instance, I heard the Speaker talking about a bill, the LGBTQ, anti-LGBTQ bill. It's still a bill. It's not been signed. Yeah. So it
hasn't been addressed by the Supreme Court yet.
Yes, the Supreme Court has no business going into it to something Parliament is doing. That is what the whole separation of powers means. It means that they are autonomous. You see, so and then they have their own rules. I think it is Article 111 of the Constitution that authorizes Parliament to make standing orders to regulate their own proceedings. Yeah. When you go to the courts also have rules that govern the proceedings in the courts. In fact, the court, when you go to the very lowest of all, which is the magistrate court and all of that, we apply the district court rules. Yeah. There are rules that were made those rules were not made by Parliament as laws. So when you go to the High Court, there's a rule. There are rules of High Court that we follow. The rule will tell you that when you have an action, you have to file it in this particular way, put addresses here and so, and then serve the other person. The other person has maybe 8 days to respond, 14 days to do this, or blah, blah, blah. All that, they are rules. And the courts always make sure that we follow those rules. When you go to the Court of Appeal, it has its own rules. And when you go to the Supreme Court, it has its own rules. So when you go to the court and you do not follow the rules, the court will tell, in fact, they will rule you out. So that's why, so Parliament to the Constitution gives them the power to make their standing orders. That's the rule that governs. So if Parliament is applying the standing orders to do what they are doing, I don't see why a member of Parliament will run to court and go and tell the court that they should come and stop Parliament from doing what they have to do. And then they always go under the guise of constitutional interpretation because they are saying it is only the Supreme Court that can interpret the Constitution. You see, but we are getting it completely wrong. You see, the Supreme Court will come in and interpret the Constitution if people go to the court and complain that a particular provision of the Constitution has been misapplied to affect the person's or somebody's rights. That is when the court comes in because, well, maybe there are conflicting interpretations and all of that. It doesn't mean that any time somebody feels that, well, I'm not happy with the way this particular provision is interpreted, whether it affects me or not, I have to run to court. And again, it doesn't also mean that the other institutions and then even the lower courts are not always interpreting the Constitution. They are doing it in terms of implementing the provisions of the Constitution. Because if you don't interpret it yourself, how can you implement it? For instance, if we elect a president and the president appoints majority of his ministers from Parliament, he is implementing a constitutional provision. It is in the Constitution that majority of ministers should come from Parliament. Nobody is running, president is not running to Supreme Court and say, interpret this to me, or nobody is going to run to Supreme Court and go and say that it is only you that can interpret the Constitution. And so until you interpret that, the president cannot make the appointments. So every day, the executive, they are implementing the provisions of the Constitution. The courts are implementing, but when people are arrested and they are sent to, they are detained, and for 48 hours they have to bring them. It is a constitutional provision. Nobody is running to court for court to explain that to them before they do it. So we are implementing the provisions of the Constitution every time. And Parliament is implementing the provisions of the Constitution every time. People have to understand this. And so in this particular case, when Parliament was going to interpret the Article 97, 1G and H, Parliament was just going to, and then there's a standing order, I think standing order 18 that authorizes the Speaker to pronounce, yes, to declare the seat vacant. Yeah. And so but before even the Speaker will act, you see, that is the worst part of it, before the Speaker will act, because the submission was made by the then minority leader, that, well, 4 of our colleagues have crossed threads. They have either become independent when they came in the name of a party, or they've joined a party now. So, but before even the Speaker will act, that is the worst part of it. Then the majority leader then runs to court to tell the court that tell the Speaker not to act. That is what it means, what the first process they filed. That's what it means. The Speaker should not even act, Parliament should not even act. How ridiculous. That is how when the Speaker said that the Judiciary and the Executive are colluding to weaken Parliament. Yes, to some extent, that is the indication we are seeing, that they are weakening Parliament, because somebody can always run to court to go and ask the court that stop them from acting, because the person has not even declared, has not even acted at all, and you want to even stop the person. You see, not to even make a pronouncement. If you make a pronouncement and anybody feels aggrieved, we don't have any problem with the person going to court and say that the Speaker made this pronouncement which affects my rights. You see, there also there's a little problem, because you see, in developed democracies, there's something called the political question, which the courts will not touch. The political question means that the issue, the controversy that has come to court is purely political. It's for political players. The courts don't want to meddle in that. So if it is purely political matter, nobody is saying that its rights, private rights, were affected. Then it is for the politicians to determine whether it's happening with the executive or parliament, especially parliament. The courts, and I've never heard before. I do say that I went to law school outside of Ghana. I've never heard before that look, there are times in the United States Congress, as we speak right now, the Democrats occupy the White House, and the Republicans control the Congress. Sometimes they lock out government completely. There will be no money. But that is a matter for them to deal with in Congress. It's a political matter. So nobody runs and say, nobody runs to court and say the court come and tell Congress to behave this way. So if it is purely a political matter, and for viewers to understand exactly why this is a typical political question, just watch it. When the speaker made a pronouncement or made a declaration, the immediate people that were affected were 4 members of parliament. They didn't complain. None of them went to court. None of them even granted any interview, anything. So none of them is alleging anything. Now, the constituents, nobody from any of those 4 constituencies has complained that they were denied representation. Nobody. So who has complained? NPP caucus. NPP caucus. And why are they complaining? Because they will now become, the effect of that declaration is that their position will change, their status in parliament as a minority group will change. Purely political. Purely political. Because the courts, and then they will say that it is an interpretation issue. But if the court attempts to interpret that in their favor, it means that, so when they ran to court, when the majority leader ran to court like a crybaby, all that he went to tell the Supreme Court is that intervene so that you restore us to majority group. That is all. That is all. The other things the court is saying that they have deprived the people of representation and all of that. The people have not complained. Nobody from there has complained of a human rights that they've been deprived. None, the 4 MPs, none of them has complained that he was not heard. Because if you look at the Article 97, the 1 G and H, it's very simple. He didn't say anybody should be heard or anything. Even though they were members of parliament at the time the matter was raised, and they could have spoken in parliament if they wanted. You see, but that provision says that, look, if you cross carpet, you vacate your seat. It's as simple as that. And so for me, I think that the court shouldn't have even touched the matter at all. When this matter comes, they should have quickly dispatched. Look, tell them that, look, this one is a very simple, straightforward. Pretty simple, straightforward provision. Once you cross carpet, you vacate your seat.
Or rather, the court could have said that this is purely parliamentary business, and then
yes,
we don't have any.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So it's simple. Yeah, but first of all, like you are saying, parliamentary business. So this is political matter. We don't want to touch it.
But what the court is doing is also not unlawful.
Well, it is unlawful.
How?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That they are trying to meddle in the activities of parliament. You see, they are trying to do that.
They have been sought after.
Yes.
Through their jurisdiction of interpretation, and also, a declaration so made.
Yes.
In terms of.
Yeah, but what I'm telling you that, you see, I'm telling you that there's something called a political question. Right. They can quickly evaluate that and see that, you see, because this crisis is being caused by the court.
But what we want to understand is what the court's doing lawful or unlawful?
I'm saying that the court is not supposed to touch. You see, if we are talking about lawful, are we trying to see whether it is written somewhere that the court cannot do this particular thing or do this particular thing?
I think that they are acting within their remit. In as much as we all disagree with the fact that, the court is giving some sort of expedited attention to the NPP majority leader who sought an interpretation, or who sought that the court makes an order of an injunction on the speaker's declaration of those vacant seats. We disagree. We have our own disagreement here and there.
You see,
but whether or not the court is not supposed to be run to OHEMAA run to is what a lot of people want to have.
Let me explain this to you in a very simple terms. when people go to the court with their grievance seeking redress, the court will have to act. So yes, if the court is acting in the matter, that is not unlawful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is not unlawful.
Absolutely.
It is what the court is saying. It is the way the court is acting. So I'm saying that, well, the majority leader went to the court. Yes, of course, the court will have to tell him something. You say you don't have to ignore him. But that's something that you are telling him is what we shall scrutinize to see whether the court is acting well or not. And I am saying that what the court should have told him is that this matter has no merit. So go and resolve this matter in Parliament. More so, there is a precedent. There was a very recent similar ruling in 2020. So the court has plenty basis to throw the matter out. So the courts, look, the lawyers have argued about many technical issues about whether the court acted well according to their rules and all of that. Yeah, but that's not what we are discussing. I am saying that once the matter went to court, they have to sit and listen to it. Whether they have empaneled the court too quickly, or whether they shouldn't have gone by ex parte, whether they shouldn't, all those are issues that lawyers would discuss. So that's not what we are trying to say. But what I agree with you is that, yes, once the matter has come to the court, that is why the court is there. The court has to listen to it. Yes, by the time you give, people are arguing whether the LGBTQ, the SAL, they are all there, that we have all these problems there. But we expect you that in this particular matter, once the Affirmative has come, and you know the effect of what he's asking for, and then he is telling you that, rule also to say that the people, their constituents were deprived and the people were not heard, and when those people have not complained, you see, you read between the lines and say that this man, all he wants is to be restored to his majority position. That's why he has come.
So that's to say that the court's response is politically motivated?
No, I'm not directly saying so, that it's politically motivated, but the effect of it is that it's siding with government, and it's meddling in the affairs of Parliament. That is what I'm saying. That one I am saying so. You see, we are lawyers. We are being intimidated here and there by trying to be critical about this, but we have to say it.
By who?
Oh yeah, well, recently the Attorney General even spoke to lawyers and said that the lawyers, the Ghana General Legal Council should deal ruthlessly with lawyers who are criticizing the Supreme Court unfairly. I don't know. That unfairly is what we shall contest, because
he said this.
Yes,
Where?
He did. Oh, he said it. He was speaking to public sector lawyers recently. That's about 2 or 3 days ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and then he said so. Somebody who tampered with a witness, who spoke to a party in a case, telling the person to go and fraudulently acquire medical report and go and lie to the court and all of that. It's now saying that we should be bullied for criticizing. So that unfairly is, somebody has to determine whether the criticism that you are giving to the court is fair. Yes. So I am saying that, look, the problems we have now, it is because the leader in Parliament, who is Honorable Affirmative, had run to court too early to try to stop Parliament from, stop the Speaker from doing his work. And that is not right. It's weakening Parliament. That's what he tried to do. Okay. And then now we can see the tussle now. And then we are all sitting down watching it. And it's getting worse because they don't want to sit here and nobody wants to sit here and all of that. But it's playing out in Parliament, and I don't have any problem with it at all. It should play out in Parliament. And I don't think that it can only affect government business if one side is refusing to go to Parliament. If
I mean, that's what's happening now, because the MPP has decided not to, the MPP caucus has decided not to go to Parliament.
Yes.
Reasons why Speaker has adjourned indefinitely, because at the end of the day, you need a quorum to make a decision. Yes. And they are not making themselves available.
Yeah, so they are the ones trying to frustrate government business, and so they shouldn't blame anybody for it. That would be my...
Thank you, Counsel. I'm going to bring Mr. Ebu Backman shortly. But let me read these interesting messages. This one says that, welcome back, Uncle Ebu. You took a long break. Were you chanting for Alan and St. Augustine's lesson from Infantipim Cheddar? The truth is, both the Parliament and Judiciary are projecting an ugly image about Ghana since the Ahinkra e-levy saga. Okay. This one also says that the Supreme Court is playing politics and no law. Okay, this coming from Kweku. A few more. Sami Accra, NDC should impress upon Asiedu Nketia to return to party headquarters. This will enable him direct his constituency executives and PCs effectively to do house-to-house ECT. As MPP is effectively doing in my constituency. Okay, let me take this last one from Alhaji Said Kucho. Says, good morning, OHEMAA from Alhaji. Menshia say, thank you. Please, we must understand one thing about truth. Anytime truth comes out, it tends to a fire. It tends to fire because some people hate the truth. God bless Mr. Speaker. Okay, let me just come back to Mr. Ebo Bachman. Do you agree with the majority leader as he says that the speaker is setting Ghana on fire, or you think otherwise?
Yeah, you see, these are, I mean, legal issues, but then, you know, I'm not a lawyer. I growing up, I wanted to become a lawyer.
It's not too late.
But going to the university, finally I changed my mind, and law became my second choice.
But it's not too late, Mr. Ebo Bachman.
So I missed out being a lawyer and ended up at School of Administration in those days in Legon. But then sometimes you need to also allow common sense to prevail. I believe that law itself contains a certain degree of commonsensical. For me, my understanding of what has happened or what is happening is that the Supreme Court is supposed to interpret the gray areas of the Constitution. When it is black and white, or when it is black or white, I don't think it requires interpretation. It's only when you are not clear as to the meaning of what is captured there that the Supreme Court would have to come and interpret. So in this regard, I ask a question. Article 97(1) G and H. What is there to be interpreted? I mean, commonsensically. Because it is so clear, what is written is so clear that anybody who can read and understand anything can read the Constitution, that part of the Constitution, and understand. It doesn't require any interpretation from the Supreme Court. So I believe that, as Mr. Lanchamanton has said, the Supreme Court acted unconstitutionally by acting on that particular provision of the Constitution, because it doesn't require interpretation. Albeit, the Supreme Court has the power to interpret. It's been given that mandate to interpret. It doesn't mean that any issue has to be interpreted by the Supreme Court. Some are so clear that you have to allow it to stand as it is, because your interpretation can give different meaning to something that is so easy to understand, and it becomes a problem like what we are having. I believe if the Supreme Court had made it clear, I mean, this issue is not something that has to be interpreted. It's so clear. What the Speaker has done is so obvious. I mean, he is only doing what the Constitution says he should do, and for me, it shouldn't be a problem. However, per what some of the lawyers are saying, is that once the Supreme Court has made pronouncement or has adjudicated on an issue, it has to be obeyed. Even though what was done was unconstitutional, it has to be obeyed. Then you can go back to the same Supreme Court and say what you did is wrong, and so rectify it or review it. And that is what is. I mean, I'm sitting here with a lawyer, and that is what people are saying. So it makes the whole thing complex. I believe that is why this Constitution requires, how do you call it? Review.
Review. Yeah.
Yes, because really, Constitution is supposed to make things simple for us, not to complicate issues for us. If we need to rewrite the Constitution in a language that the ordinary man can understand, it will be good for this country. Because the Constitution is not only for lawyers. It's for every Ghanaian. Even those who have not been to school, the Constitution is for them. Therefore, one of the features of the Constitution should be, it should be something that can easily be understood by anyone who reads it. And so it's a problem. But you see, he said the speaker is setting the country on fire. Let me tell you what is setting the country on fire. What is the constitution itself? Because there seems to be a lot of issues with the constitution recently. And as I said, as I started with the constitution, the way it even allows the president to have certain powers. I mean, it's gradually setting the country on fire because, like Nanado is doing, you may even get someone who is worse than Nanado to become president. And the constitution will allow the person to destroy this country.
So, don't you think that the constitution is fairly giving mandates to individuals or authorities that, I mean, it establishes in the constitution? However, these leaders and people who have been given such power by the constitution weaponize the constitution and makes it look like it's the constitution that is perhaps or there are some anomalies that lie in there.
You see,
so don't you? Yeah, can we look at it in
when
that
you find yourself in a certain environment, like the one that we find ourselves in, as in African setting and in this Ghanaian setting we have, if you have a constitution that can easily be manipulated, or the provision of the constitution that can easily be manipulated by leaders, what you do is that you avoid that. For example, I believe that there's no way the president should be allowed to appoint the electoral commissioner. I mean, that one, it is something that should never happen, because the president himself or herself will be contesting an election, and the one that he or she appointed is the one refereeing the election. I mean, it doesn't make sense one bit. But I'm saying that, yes, I see the constitution. If there's something that is likely to set this country on fire, it will be the constitution. That's why there's the need for us to reform or amend the constitution. That is why, to review the constitution, that's why Mr. Alan Chamatin has captured it so vividly as one of the pillars of that underpin the formation of this movement is to review the constitution of this country. Because after 32 years, it doesn't make sense to continue the same constitution. But let me tell you what another thing that is setting this country on fire. Unemployment is going to set this country on fire if it is not tackled. Eboboba. You see, when people become frustrated, when people live after 6, 5, 7 years of completing school, if they don't have anything to do with their lives, there are no jobs, there are not opportunities, it can easily set this country on fire. And OHEMAA, it is highly unthinkable. I've been wondering, and I have this to say all the time. This is not the first time me saying this here. We have 195 countries in the world, don't we? 195 countries in the world. 54 countries in Africa. Ghana is 33 million country, a very small country in the midst of the 195. God has blessed you so much to the extent that when it comes to gold production, you are the number one in Africa. Out of the 54 countries, you are number one in Africa. Out of 195 countries, you are the number 6 in gold production. Cocoa production, you are number 2 in Africa, number 2 in the world. Bauxite, you are number 3 in Africa, number 11 in the world. Manganese, number 2 in Africa, number 5 in the world. You have crude oil. 2 in West Africa, 9th in Africa. I can mention coconut, you are number 1 in Africa. I mean, so why should this country be poor? I mean, let's think about it. Why should a country like Benin, that export only cotton, and because they want cotton to look good, they call it white gold. We have the gold itself. A country that exports cotton will manage its economy in such a way that they will have inflation of 2.6%. They will have interest rates, lending rate of 5.7%, when ours is 35 to 40%. That's why I'm saying that if there's one problem that is going to set this country on fire, it is economic mismanagement and its consequential effect of unemployment. I said it. I wrote something. I recently published an article, and I wrote something I want to share. I want to read exactly what I wrote. And for me, it is quite worrying. And I want to appeal to the young men and women in this country. Let's stop playing this political football we have been playing. This is what I wrote. I said, with the help of the media, for 32 years, Ghana's choice has followed the same cycle. If the NDC fails, we turn to the MPP. And when the MPP fails, we go back to the NDC. How can a cycle of rotating failures lead to real progress? The truth is, neither the NDC nor the MPP alone can provide the governance and development Ghana needs. Only a government of national unity can achieve this. And that is why Benin is doing well. Because in the last 18 years, Benin has never voted for a political party. They vote for independent president who comes to office, brings the best and best brains, best talent in the country, no matter where he finds them. Whether they are coming from political parties, they are coming from outside the political space. That is the way forward after 32 years. Because NDC clearly has proven that giving the power to them alone for 16 years, they couldn't achieve much. That is why we went to the IMF in 2015 or 16 and we slept in doom. So MPP has repeated the same cycle. And I'm saying that it is not about playing political football between NDC and MPP. It's about saving this country.
Right.
And that is why some of us believe that the way forward for this country is to let these two political parties, after 16 years each, also go into opposition 16 years, so that we can have one government, all-inclusive government that can make use of the brightest minds and brightest brains of this country for us to develop as a nation. So, majority leader, interestingly, minority leader or majority leader, I don't even know what to say.
In between.
In between. It's a friend. In fact, I was one of the people who inspired him.
I think you've mentioned this here.
Yes,
before.
and he was also my junior at St. Augustine's College.
Yeah.
He's an Absunian. Maybe what he's doing. He's doing. Absunian. We say omni vincit labor. Perseverance conquers all. So he's persevering. My brother, ask for this perseverance there. I don't think it's gonna work. Let's see how we can solve this problem so that this MPP has a few days to be in power. Of course, MPP, I've said it. One thing you do, make sure MPP goes out. Then after that, sit down and see between Mr. Alan Chamanton and Mr. Mahama, not NDC and Afafanto, between the person, Mr. Alan Chamanton, the personalities. Look for what they put forward as their vision, their character, their competence, their track record, even before they came into politics. Compare and juxtapose that with the kind of future you want for this country and make your decision. If you do that genuinely and honestly, you vote for Mr. Alan Chamanton to be your next president.
Right, thank you very much, Mr.
Can I make
just 1 minute, please. I need to read some messages, or if you don't mind, let me just read the messages and then you chip in.
Right. Okay.
Then you continue with the next topic.
That's fine.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. More interesting messages coming in. Asanko says that what's at all is in Article 97G and H that needs interpretation. Okay. Ken William has. Okay. How do you read this? Okay. Good morning, OHEMAA. We don't need laws for everything under the sun. What we need are leaders who are mentally sound and morally upright, and not those who come to power with a state capture agenda to loot state lands, get funds, pensions and forest reserves with impunity. UK is a good model of unwritten laws, but they are more disciplined and God-fearing than those who steal public funds and lands to build cathedrals. Okay, this one's coming from Ken William. Mukaila Jonas says he's inside Kerry. He said we have to blame ourselves as a party, especially some of our MPs who voted for Bagman to come and misbehave, and he's doing. And when you descend down to the grassroots level, the usual mantra, hence they are chanting Yentuaba. But the ordinary NDC supporter will sacrifice their last blood to protect the NDC, no matter what. So it is a lesson for all of us to live NPP, even if you've not benefited in one way or the other. But you know, the upcoming elections is a test case for us. Let's come out in our numbers and vote for Dr. Bawumia and our respective MPs for a convincing majority come January 7, 2025. Let's put our differences aside. Regards to Kenneth Techi Japan. Let me do a few more. All right, this one says that, OHEMAA, please, my last word to NPP. All the Fulanis are going for JM and NDC. Simple. Simple, because we don't have a Fulani candidate for president. It is Mamprusi versus Gonja. We are nearer to Gonja than Mamprusi as chairman. A chairman. Our votes go for JDM and NDC from Kucho Zongo, youth president, Ashanti region, and second vice president, Thabital. I'm not too sure. All right, thank you very much, Alhaji Said Kucho. Let me take this last one and we move on. This one says, tell the Yellow Movement for Change man in the studio that in America, when democracy fails, Republican take over, not a third party. Benin is not doing better than America. Fifi Ankara. All right, thank you very much for your messages. I'll read as we wrap up on the show. I'm going to read more, but you're still watching Good Morning Africa here on Pan-African Television with me, OHEMAA AGYEKUM, and this is the newspaper review segment. Our next topic is quite interesting, what a lot of people have captioned as self-gratification, and it is that the president has unveiled a statue of himself at the Efiem Kwanta Hospital, a hospital that have been said to be built in the 1930s, and apparently the president has made a monument of himself at the premises of the hospital. I mean, just to say that he has a certain impact on the formation of the hospital or establishment of that facility. But people have shared their 2 cents on it, and my guests in the studio will do same. But before counsel proceeds to the subject matter, he has 1 or 2 things to share. So please proceed. Yeah.
Yes. I just wanted to just comment on what my colleague said about the third party or an independent candidate issue. Just something very little about it. You see, unfortunately for him and for his group, you see, Mr. Lanchimante is not the one who should be championing this message, because we know him too well. He's more MPP than anything, you see, and he even contested. In fact, he contested in the MPP primary, the first part of the primary. So he was part of this government for nearly 8 years, you see, and then he contested when things didn't go well. In fact, many of us Ghanaians knew that it should have been the successor of Nana Akufo-Addo as a presidential candidate. We knew that. There was no doubt about that. If the primary had gone well, and I understand clearly and I acknowledge that he was kind of cheated because the regime supported somebody else over him, which shouldn't have been the case, because if you look at the way MPP does its things, you see from Eduba into Kufuor to Nana Akufo-Addo, it was natural or logical that Alan Chimati would have been the candidate, and yet they twisted the arms of the delegates and all of that, and then they imposed Bawumia for their own reasons, maybe for 2 reasons, because Bawumia is a stooge for Nana Akufo-Addo. He was the one that brought him into MPP, that's one, so he will come and protect their loot and all of that, and then 2, because they wanted to give this impression that OMPP is not an account party, so if we can get somebody who is a non-account, then it will look like we are now more of a national party than the way Ghanaians see us. So because of that, they don't care whatever will happen to the party, and then they went ahead, and then Mr. Chimantin resigned from the party that was the stage he resigned from the party. It's not like Nana Bediako, for instance, that came as independent. We never knew his attachment to MPP before and his campaign. So for me, if I would choose a true independent person that is not aligned to any party, perhaps I should be looking at other people, not Alan Chimantin. So that argument, you see, that is a problem they have with that argument. If they are condemning NDC, condemning MPP, and they want to make it look like Alan Chimantin has never been. So it is, what he's saying is just like if tomorrow Honorable Johnson Asiedun Ketia says, I'm now out of NDC, and so I want to contest as independent candidate. And even if that happens after a primary that he had contested in and lost, and then he now comes and says, I'm independent, everybody should accept him as a true independent candidate. I don't think that Ghanaians can be swayed with this kind of argument. So I don't, they can keep saying it, but it's not going to convince anybody. It's not going to make sense. Otherwise, I like the person of Alan Chimantin. I think that generally he can do well as a president, but he has no chance. No independent candidate has a chance right now in Ghana, and so a vote for him would be almost like a vote for Akufo-Addo. And then, of course, if he comes, look, he's going to draw more of his ministers and people he's going to work with from MPP, because that is his route. He's been part of that party. In fact, he was the young executive, the founder of the party all along until he contested a primary and lost. So I don't see how this argument is going to make any impact. So anyway, so let me pivot straight to Akufo-Addo trying to gratify himself, try to this is so despicable. I don't, you know, I remember before that even President Rawlings at the time, I think, was it the university, what's the name of the university in the north?
UDS.
Yes, I think, was it UDS that wanted to name the university after him or name a hall or something? And he even said, no, I don't want it. Meanwhile, the seed money for that university was the money that he won, the $50,000 that he won from Sam International something, and he put in that money to start that university, and the university was built by him. You see, and then they started the university, and now it's just growing and growing and flourishing. And they wanted to even name the hall after. They even wanted to even award him, to give him some honor, and he says, no, I don't even like it. You see, so I haven't heard before that presidents will go and be inaugurating or commissioning their own bust, their own statue in front of development. And in this particular instance, there's a runabout they are building that they have not even completed. They are doing the road around the runabout, and then you go and put a very imposing statue of yourself. I don't get it, you know. And so, look, I think about this, and so the man, because he's not very sure, because you see, you can only do this if you want glorification. You are not very sure that they will do it for you when you are not there. That is what it means. You are not sure anybody will recognize your work and try to glorify you or honor you when you are not there. And so, well, let me do it myself. And he cannot also pretend not to know that he was going to unveil that statue of himself. He would be told, in fact, he would be told before he was doing that. That day, if you are going to unveil a statue and you don't even know what is in there as a president, you will find out. Because but if the statue, if he didn't see it, and by the time they open it, is John Mahama's statue that is there. Would he unveil it? Would he inaugurate it? He wouldn't. So yes, he knew what was there. And the president, who is not just looking for self-gratification, would have said, no, I don't think you should do this thing. So he knew about it. He wanted it, and they did it for him. And that is how low we have become. And the people are saying that you haven't even done anything for us in the whole region. And you see, so all of this is going to affect, and he is the one that has brought Dr. Bawumia. Dr. Bawumia is in politics because of Nana Akufo-Addo. Yeah. And he's going to behave exactly like Nana Akufo-Addo. It's his master, his driver, and he is a mate. And so if you are coming, and we are seeing the footprint of Nana Akufo-Addo, and who came and said, look, I brought you Bawumia because of the economic situation in the country. So you are coming to come and change everything, and then he brought you, and now look at the DDP, and then look at everything has fallen flat. Look at the rate of the CD to the dollar. So you see clearly, and then look at what the man is doing now, and he's telling us that they should vote for you. So clearly, Bawumia is not going to be any different from Nana Akufo-Addo. That one is clear. Ghanaians can say that because he will never condemn this. And you know what? In the American election, the performance of Joe Biden also affected Kamala Harris. Yes, because they kept, in fact, everything that the government did, the policy, they kept attributing it to Kamala Harris. That you did this, you preside over this, you preside. They were not even saying it as if he was just a deputy to the president or running or a vice to the president. They were just saying as though she was in charge. And it's the same thing here in Ghana also. Bawumia has failed us, the government has failed us, and now they are gratifying themselves, they are praising themselves, they are erecting monuments of themselves somewhere. Very soon we shall see one of Bawumia himself somewhere.
All right.
And that's very sad for this country.
Council. All right, so thank you very much, Council. We are still talking about the uproar in Ghana after President unveils his own statue. I don't know why I keep saying statute. Because lost it. But it's very interesting. Yeah. Let me just read a few messages. I mean, considering what has been captured on the front page of the Inside newspaper, I read the content of it, and it's interesting. They have captioned another, that's like a sub-story, that says that what John AGYEKUM Kufuor did in 2007, it will be recalled that in 2007 then, Ghanaian President John AGYEKUM Kufuor, with some months to exit office, also awarded himself a gold medal for having achieved, in his own opinion, a lot for Ghanaians during serious uproar and condemnation from Ghanaians and the global world. So this seems to be a replication of that. What do you think, Abel?
Yeah, of course, expect that. Before I touch on this, I would want to react
counter, but that's just for a few minutes.
Just a few minutes. That's something that a lawyer said. I'm glad he admitted that Mr. Lenchamantu will be a good president, and that is what we are looking for.
I said I like him. I didn't say he would be a good president necessarily.
Oh, you said it.
No, you said that he.
You said it. And
you said you like his persona,
what you said,
and that
what you said.
You think he can be a good president, but he doesn't have the chance.
I'm saying the man is MPP more than anything else.
No, so
MPP was aggrieved only by the way they cheated him.
You see what you are looking for. It's a good president. And if you find that in Mr. Lenchamantu, so be it.
I never said Mr. Lenchamantu is better than Mahama.
No, you didn't say that. Yes. You didn't make the comparison.
Yes. I'm just saying what you said.
He's a good man, I like him.
And the point is that, another point I also want you to consider is that the presidency is not for a political party. So if you say an independent candidate cannot win in Ghana, the point I want to make is that the presidency is not for a political party.
No, that's not what I mean. I'm not saying that.
It is for an individual.
I'm saying that in our dispensation now, it's going to be very difficult for any.
It's not going to be difficult. If Ghanaians decide, I'm saying if Ghanaians decide, like the way Benin did, like the way France did. Let me tell you, Macron was also a part of a political party. He went out, contested as independent, and won. So I want to tell you that whatever you are saying, you are saying it because of the fact that you have an interest in this election.
No, I don't believe it's going to happen.
So as being an NDC member, you would want your party to win. But the most important point I want to put across is what I want to go back to it. That the presidency is for an individual. It's never for a political party.
Yes, that one is not disputed.
That is why voting for somebody to become president, his party has nothing to do with it.
No, the party has
should have nothing to do with it because the power of the state is vested in the person, not the party. So why should? So it means tomorrow. Let me tell you. I ask people questions. So if tomorrow MPP, for instance, goes to have their whatever delegate conference and choose, I don't want to mention them, choose someone that we know. The same with NDC, someone that we know this is incompetent, this person is corrupt, but the person was able to pay his way to become the flag bearer of that party. And another person comes as independent, who is more sensible, who is more visionary, who is more competent, who has integrity, who is more credible than the person. You are saying that because that incompetent, maybe corrupt person contesting on the ticket of a political party, we should still vote for him. That's what you meant with your argument. No. That is why the framework of the Constitution.
I didn't say that.
That's why the framework of the Constitution makes sure that the power is vested in the individual, unlike in the parliamentary system where the party wins and the party decide who becomes the leader.
I didn't dispute that.
Okay, so
I think that we should proceed.
It's very clear that Chumati is more MPP than anything. That's what I'm saying.
He's no more MPP. I used to be MPP.
He wanted to be.
No, let me tell you. Yes,
if you have won the primary,
sometimes
I think that
God works. Sometimes God works in mysterious ways. Sometimes God works. That is why they cheated. That's why I'm coming. That is why Joseph's in the Bible. Joseph's brother had to hate him for him to be sold into slavery so that he could become prime minister. God works in mysterious ways. The point is let's come to
that point has been made. Yeah,
is it a true independent?
That point has been made.
Yes,
he's an independent.
Okay, Mr. Brackman.
Yes. As for Leonardo, sometimes when I'm talking about him, sometimes I get emotional. Let me say this today, maybe for the first time, people don't know, but for Leonardo, I would have been MP for Cape Coast when it was one constituency. So sometimes when I talk about him, I get emotional, and as much as possible, I want to stay away from talking about him. I think he's a failed president. I mean, I don't have to say it. What is happening in this country?
What do you mean by, but for him you would have been? He
made sure I was disqualified in 2008.
Through what means?
Do
you have some sort of
yes.
feud with him?
He really wanted me in his camp. He lured me with a lot of goodies. I rejected. He even wanted to travel with me to the US. I rejected it, and he got pissed off. So somebody I had contested Honorable Kisinchecha in 2004, and that election I wouldn't say I lost, but Honorable Kisinchecha won. I wouldn't say I lost, but she won. 2008. Fast forward 2008, I was even the youth organizer of the party, and I was also the presiding member contesting primaries
in the Central Region.
In Central Region, Cape Coast, and somebody who had contested 2004, who was still the youth organizer and the presiding member in 2008, when the names finally came, that those who were contesting, my name was not part. And do you know what they did? They released the list Friday evening and did the primary Sunday morning.
Yeah. So you were basically expunged.
You can't do anything about that.
So that I can't go to court to stop it.
Yeah.
And when it happened, I mean, President Kufuor called him, and I'm saying this for the first time. There was a meeting at the castle. President Kufuor called and told him.
This is exclusive.
Exclusive, When that happened, President Kufuor called him and told me the young man, 2004, he won the primaries. He was cheated. Allow him to go. If he goes and he loses, fine. But don't disqualify him. At the meeting, it was agreed that they were going to, and I will mention the name so that they will know what I'm saying is true. Mr. Tedem was there, the late Tedem was there, late Alajete was there, Odo Sykes was there, Mr. Kojon Penu was the secretary to the meeting, McMenu was there. First meeting, Leonardo didn't attend. Second meeting, he attended. A decision was made that they should do the primaries, 14 constituencies, including Cape Coast. They should do the primaries again. Leonardo turned down the decision. He invited us to his office, number 16, Ridge. And he called us individually to his office to convince us to let it go. I told him, I said, and it's not about me becoming an MP, it's about you becoming president. Let me tell you, if he had obeyed President Kufuor, he would have been president in 2008. Because all the 14 constituencies, only Shaba went independent and won. We lost in almost all the 14, including Time. Time was one of the constituencies. So he's somebody, that's why I hardly want to talk about him. Certainly, it is not me to say that what he did is not good. Ghanaians are already saying it, because it's highly unthinkable that the president, when alive, will go and unveil your own statue. And look at where it was unveiled. And all the projects that were associated with the unveiling of the statue are not completed. They are ongoing projects, yet you have completed the statue
and went to
in honor of yourself. I mean, who does that? That is what I would say.
Right. There are some interesting messages coming through which has to do with this very subject matter on the uproar of the president unveiling his own statue at the Ifiem Kwanta Hospital in the Western region. This one said that OHEMAA, good morning. After the coup in 1966, that ousted Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, some fanatics of UP/NPP tradition went on the rampage and pulled down the statue of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. OHEMAA, after the coup of the thumb on December 7, we shall equally destroy the Almighty's name. Stephen Benwa. Okay. Interesting. Ken is coming through with more messages. Says that how can Akufo-Addo build a statue to claim a hospital built by the colonial regime in the 1930s before he was born? It's sad to have a president who blames everyone except himself for his failures, but in a hurry to claim credits for everything good, such as Ghana card, schools, stable electricity, roads, and digitalization. All right. Hamza also says that OHEMAA, the man in suit is honest. Alan Cash should have joined the new force. NKB Cheddar should lead the country. Simple. Again, both the parliament and judiciary are projecting an ugly image about Ghana since that. All right, Collins, thank you very much. And please be reminded that this number is not for call. I see some calls coming through, strictly text messages and WhatsApp, or WhatsApp messages. Abdul Malik from Tamale says that good morning, Pan-African TV. It's clear that Alan and his team are in the mission to destroy Baumia and NPP and not to win elections. The man in your studio exhibiting serious bitterness. God will shame you and your leader. Hey.
The man in what? The suit?
In the studio.
Ah, okay.
All right, this one says that this statue, a recipe for post-traumatic stress syndrome, has no place in our democracy. Like how all dictator statues pulled down, it shall come to pass. Okay, thank you very much. This one also, okay, I have taken this one. Akufo-Addo will go down in history as the worst of all presidents in Ghana. His self-gratification, like that of what Kufuor did in 2008, wouldn't save him in any way. Nana Kakari Techiman, thank you. Hello, OHEMAA Pan-African. Do you know that Nana's statue was meant for the Nana's Dream Cathedral? Wow, interesting. Thank you for that information.
Probably should have completed that one.
So it was meant to embellish the cathedral that was meant to be put up. Okay, this one says that, what's the man in suit's name, please? He's a good lawyer. Okay, he is. I'm going to let him introduce himself so that you can get to know him. Okay, this one says that, hello OHEMAA, thank you for the good work. Thank you for always choosing us. This is still Good Morning Africa, the newspaper review segment with me, OHEMAA AGYEKUM, and it's been an amazing morning. I'm just going to give my guests the chance to, just a few minutes to talk about what their vision is for Ghana. Just give their last words, and then I read a few messages, and we call it a day. All right, Council.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, my last word to Ghanaians, I want to encourage everybody to take the election very seriously. Also, first of all, the Electoral Commission, they have to be very careful, and I want more of the civil society organizations that are in the governance sector to watch and be alert and make sure that they speak out about the activities of the Electoral Commission, activities that are suspicious. They shouldn't leave the fight for only NDC. And then Ghanaians should they should find out about NDC manifesto and see, especially the youth. You would see that the whole manifesto, in fact, the programs are just for the youth and women. If you talk about even the only policy that MPP has brought that, well, has some credibility that they have not even organized very well is the free SHS. but we are taking it to a different level. John Mahama says that he's never going to cancel the free SHS. He's going to rather make it better. And the free SHS people, the two main problems they have is that if they want to further their education, the very first payment that they have to do, school fees at the training colleges and the universities, that's a problem. And so that's where John Mahama is providing that for free. And they've costed that already, and they know it's about 300 million Ghana cedis, and they are making arrangement for that. And then the other problem is jobs, and that is why John Mahama is going to train a lot of the youth. He's going to train about 1 million youth in coding. And then besides that, the 24-hour economy, which is going to make the companies that will participate employ threefold of the total number of employees they have right now. Is going to create a lot of jobs. And once the people are working 3 shifts, more people are working, the companies are open for 24 hours, then it means that productivity will also increase, and productivity increases, then prices will come down, inflation will come down. Right. And so people should have hope in this. And then, but they should, what I want to encourage the youth to do is to access the NDC manifesto online, look at the policies and the programs in there, and then you should see clearly that everybody is just tired with this government, with Nana Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, and so everybody is going to vote for John Mahama. So let's do it. Let's make sure that it happens, and then we'll all see the benefits that will follow.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor. Mr. Ebu Bakman, come through with your last submission, and I'll read a few messages in real.
Yes, my point is that let me first and foremost say that no serious country would want to entertain a performance like the performance NPP has put up in any election. For me, the NPP performance is no for Ghanaians. I mean, we don't have to think twice before voting them out. But the question is, what is the alternative for Ghanaians? I mean, for me, that is the most important question. The fact that NPP has failed shouldn't make NDC an automatic case. That has been the system. One face we force on the other. And that has been the bane of our development. To the extent, let's be honest, and lawyer is here. Mr. Mahama, I don't have any problem with him as a person. But let's say the truth. If Nana Addo had performed, there's no way Mahama would have been even bold to contest this election. It's because Nana Addo has failed. So we are on the negative side of the normal line. Because -1 is better than -2. That is the problem we have in this country. Because it's not the same Mr. Mahama who took a rising economy from Professor Hatamas, economy with growth rate of 14.3%, and took it to the IMF in 4.5 years. So the point I'm making is that the alternative should be a plan. A plan, and not a manifesto. Alternative should be a government of national unity, not a winner-takes-all system. The alternative should be someone who is prepared to reform the constitution, to take away the powers of the presidency that he himself wants to occupy. And that is Mr. Alan Chamantin. If you are a youth in this country, check the records of all those who are contesting in respect of job creation. Check their history before politics and during politics. Which of them has shown capacity, competence in terms of creating jobs, making things work for people to get job to do? Because you have completed school, you are sitting at home 6, 4, 5 years, some more than that. You need someone who has policies and programs to create jobs for you. And I'm telling you, Mr. Alan Chamantin, 10-point youth empowerment plan. Go and look for it, and also make sure 3 million jobs for the youth platform that has been created. Make sure you participate, you put your CV there, and vote massively for Mr. Alan Chamantin. When he becomes president, Ejuma Bebu, because that is what he has done all his life. Creating companies, making people rich. Is something that he is known for, and nobody can dispute that in this country. So he is our best bet in this election. Forget about the NDC political football. This is not about Real Madrid and Barcelona thing. Papa Jansen sang a song. He said, if you go and meet your mother and your wife being carried by water, he said, who will you rescue? Ghana is sinking. MPP is sinking. NDC is sinking. Rescue one. And every Ghanaian should rescue this country from the hands of these two political parties.
Right. Thank you very much. It's been indeed an insightful morning here on the newspaper review segment on Good Morning Africa on Pan-African Television. Now, let me read a few messages and then we wrap it up. Big ups, OHEMAA. You've indeed shown superb class in your work. You know your job. Keep rising higher.
That's very true.
Thank you very much.
I agree.
Thank you very much. Let me do a few more messages. Good morning, respected host. Oh, thank you very much of Pan-African TV. You are doing a good job. Thanks. Now Ghanaians are have wisened up now with their lies. NKB all the way. Okay, who is NKB? Oh, okay. Interesting. I think Ken Williams has decided to bombard us with a lot of messages, but we appreciate that. And let me take this one from Abdul Rauf, who says that as for this year, I want to see reality of Ashanti brothers and sisters who have never agreed a northerner to lead them. Now they are faced with northern men against their own fellow Ashantian. I don't think our body politics should be trickled down to tribalism. Right? I'm not even going to condone that.
But have you seen the video of Napo?
Yeah.
Telling Muslims
yes.
that if you're a Muslim and you vote for John Mahama or NDC, it's haram.
Yeah,
he said
it. He said if you're a Muslim, a Malam, and you pray for. I mean, how can?
Yeah. I mean, but you know, they say an eye for an eye will make the world go blind. So while they are propagating that, we are not condoning any tribalistic politics. Our governance is we are the makers of the king, and so your power lies in your thumb. But make sure to vote on December 7 to, you know, make that decision for the betterment and prosperity of Ghana. This one says, OHEMAA, we boy medasi bebre medasi. Thank you very much. Now, we don't have much time. Our time is up, and it's been an amazing week. You know, here on the newspaper review segment, we bring you insightful analysis and in-depth conversations that matter to you. My name is OHEMAA AGYEKUM. I just want to say thank you to my co-host Bless Kokwa Lomaso for holding me down in my absence, and also to the crew, Franka Kakpo, Chess, TT, Gifty, and Raphael. The morning show, team, we really do appreciate the efforts. Thank you to you for always choosing us to bring you the very best. It's Friday, and so make sure that you unwind and keep it cool, as the week coming is not anything easy. They always say that adulthood is a scam. Not too long ago, I was telling someone that they lied to me. They didn't tell me this was how adulthood was. But we are always looking at things on the brighter side. Have a beautiful weekend. See you next week.